We have a standard test method in the industry called Colorfastness to laundering. Let's say, for instance, we're checking this Royal Pro Mesh. We will sew it to white poly mesh, and it goes into a canister which has stainless steel balls in the bottom of it. They are providing agitation. We add a detergent solution to this canister. The test setup goes into the canister. We put a lid on it and we clamp it shut. This will go into a standard piece of testing equipment called a laundrometer. Now, a laundrometer holds a 120-degree Fahrenheit water bath. So we're actually testing the fabric at a higher temperature than what the customer will ever wash. Then we take the test setup out of the canister and we will rinse it and then dry it. And if we see any staining, we'll compare this tested piece of white against an untested piece of white. And if we see any staining here on this tested piece of white, we cannot approve that dye lot. It is not safe to sew to white. But for the printer, this is also a safety, because if there is residual dye stuff here on this fabric which stained the white side, when a printer tries to lay ink down on top of this failed fabric, the loose dye stuff here will go up into his ink and change the color of the ink every time. We must be perfectly clean in this test to prove printability, as well as we are able to color block that fabric to a color or to white. Here in this laboratory, we want to make sure that the printer can cure his items up to that maximum curing temperature of 330 degrees Fahrenheit. So again, if we're checking this Royal Mesh, we will sandwich it with white poly mesh. We'll roll it up, staple it, and it will go into a laboratory oven, which is maintaining 330 degrees Fahrenheit, the maximum temperature. Exposure for 1 minute, sort of like going down through the dryer for curing and screen print. Then we take the test setup out and we check this tested piece of white. If we see any staining on this piece of white, we cannot approve that dye lot, because right at that maximum temperature of 330 degrees Fahrenheit, just when the fibers started to open, there was an excessive amount of dye pigment racing out of those fibers and staining this white side. We have actually tested this between our laboratory here and our screen print department. If we fail this test, we cannot successfully print that fabric. Here's a tee we purchased in a bookstore, and I'd like for you to take a look at the Colorfastness to laundering rating. It has stained that white poly mesh a dark pink. This fabric is not suitable to sew white inserts into this garment. Launder it one time, you're going to have pink inserts when you're finished. And the printer will also have issues because the color of the white ink has actually changed to pink instead of being stable. On the retail floor, it has pulled up that loose dye stuff and changed the color of the logo. We cannot have that. We have to be perfectly clean in this test in order to have stable printing.